Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for a weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. We'll start with what's happening around the world. First, there's been a ceasefire declared between Israel and Palestine. China has successfully landed a rover on Mars, and they are sending pictures back. While at the same time, China is attempting to ban crypto for the 10th time. And this has resulted in a haircut across the board for most indices around the world, and with crypto leading the charge, which resulted in a ripple effect to the traditionals in terms of a retrace. Another headline states Bitcoin recovers after a plunge that shaved $1 trillion off the crypto market. And then another, younger investors are calling Bitcoin boomer coin. Here's why they prefer Dogecoin and other altcoins. And BTC, meanwhile, is hovering at 39K. It hit a low of 30,600 during this recent spike down, and ETH is hovering at 2,800 and had hit a low of 1,900. Meanwhile, the Dow is trading at around 34K. On the industry side, Google has had its annual I/O conference. And this is when Google releases most of its products and new technologies to the public. And most of their new technologies have been centered around language models. Google's MUM is what they're calling it. It's a new AI milestone for understanding information, primarily human language. And from the MIT Technology Review, using machine learning to predict high-impact research. This was an article that came out this week related to Delphi, an artificial intelligence framework that can give an early alert signal for future key technologies by learning from patterns gleaned from previous scientific publications. So that's right in line with what we do. And Virgin Galactic, symbol SPCE. Virgin Galactic shares surged 14.1% in the pre-market after the space travel company said that the test flight of its Spaceship Two, Unity, will occur on May 22nd. And then moving on to themes and events, there have been a number of battery technology headlines that over the last few weeks we've been noticing battery tech headlines related to extended battery life, efficiency, and so forth. And these themes related to battery tech seem to keep popping up, so this is a continual play and worth keeping an eye on here related to the risk and returns. And of course, one theme that dominates them all, that has been dominating everything this week, has been the retrace in the crypto markets, spurred not just by a single event. Usually when you look at a retrace happen, when you look at a downturn or a spike, it can be shaped by a single event, but it's usually a culmination, a series of either fortunate or unfortunate events. On to the corp side. We are tightening our corporate development and business development methods, and this includes a few new hires that we have, in addition to expanding our customer network and the leads that exist in that network. We'll keep everyone updated on how the progress goes there and talk more a bit about it later. We're also developing a new global project roadmap. This is for internal use, and we are mentioning it here for mainly the notification to the public that there will be a bit of reorganization as we scale. This is common for any startup that begins to scale into servicing institutional customers, enterprise customers in the broad sense, and we look forward to getting all of the internal groups that we have, including external collaborations and external partners, working together as one unit, and this will enable us to have more laser-like focus on revenue. Under engineering, product, QA, and ops, we'll go ahead and post our engineering call. as a supplement to this call, so you can look forward to that. We have also been working on the Stocks by Cryptos dataset and the updating for the new data engineering pipeline. In addition to definitions, encyclopedic entries, ontologies, and controlled vocabularies for ESG and use cases. And we are also working on data integration, and that's continuing. In terms of the dataset pipeline from the dataset and beyond, we are looking at stage 2 of our data engineering pipelines. The stage 2 section of our data engineering pipelines relate to visualization and the extended reality or XR components that we're outlining. And of course, what we went over with during this engineering call were ideas and insights based on how to better interpret data and what happens after a researcher receives a data set and how we can take over from there, or how we can let their own internal organizations take over in terms of data interpretation. It's a very important piece of the overall pipeline. When you look at the ability to enable the interpretation of data, that's when a scientist or a researcher can come up with a new hypothesis or make a discovery. So understanding how to extract graph networks from data sets and visualize them and optimize them for visualization is something that we went over. And that connects to one of our ultimate goals of real-time clustering, real-time graph networks. So taking in real-time information, processing it in real time, and then observing real-time visualization and active, live, real-time visualization. Under customers, partners, and collaborators. Under the financial category, everything is in process. We are waiting to hear back from Morningstar and S&P. And we expect to within days. We expect to be making good progress by next week. We know it's been a while, and that's why we've put other things in parallel here, in process, including Morningstar. And we have also heard from FactSet. They inquired again to determine if we'd like to work with them. We'll go ahead and get back to them and have an update for everyone next week on our progress with FactSet. So you'll notice we're not just waiting for S&P. We are putting everything in parallel here, in tandem, so we can have multiple irons in the fire and make sure that we have a lot going on in terms of tracks to revenue this year. And that, of course, connects to progress within the Space Biosciences side. The data engineering pipelines we lay down in the financial space apply to every other industry, as we can cookie cut and generalize. Under the sales and marketing side, we're going to relabel the sales and marketing section here: corporate development, business development, sales, and marketing. And as mentioned, we have a new modified strategy. We're adapting to new market conditions being defined by customers that need data sets in particular ways. We also are going to be doing some audience segmentation and understanding what kind of audiences we're talking to when we're talking to different institutions. Sometimes we talk to front desk people. Sometimes we talk to data engineers. Sometimes we talk to people in between that are just brokering the data. And sometimes we talk to an internal person within an asset management company that might be simply a liaison between these groups. So our presentation, we're going to be honing it and tailoring it for these different audiences. And that will enable us to execute on our fastest path to revenue, consequential revenue strategy. So we do have a lot going on the sales and marketing side, and we're going to be looking to secure some deals, close some deals, in the next couple of weeks here. On the exchanges side, that's in process. And on the IR, PR, and Marcom side, that's going to fall out from everything we're doing under the corporate development, business development, and sales and marketing side. And as we have mentioned over the last few weeks, we've got a full PR, IR, and Marcom pipeline. Next, we'll move to questions from the trader base. The first question is, did you hear about Phantom Space Company, which cooperates with Nexus.io? Did you see any field for cooperation with these both companies, and would be such cooperation considered by you? Okay, so we are prioritizing based on the time and resources, particularly engineering resources that we have available, that we can make available to a customer or a partner or a collaborator. And we're prioritizing based on how valuable that relationship is, defined by fastest path to revenue. And if it is a fast path to revenue for us, then we will pursue it. The next question is, has there been any interest or discussion regarding thematic baskets toward climate change events and corresponding disaster response, such as improvement of FEMA response, population displacement management, and the fallout of said displacement upon real estate markets? For example, the California wildfires and improving forestry management strategies, early warning systems, and coordination of first responders. I would imagine this is a big market that will only continue to get larger. Thanks. Okay. So this is a loaded question, and climate change is something that intersects with the ESG data sources that we are building out. So yes, the answer to that question is yes. But of course, we do prioritize, again, based on fastest path to revenue, and we will absolutely be involved with as much as possible when it comes to any kind of disaster response or any kind of infrastructure that we need to pay attention to here, and anything that we can help with related to our data sets. The next question, number 3, could you make a data set for cutting diamonds, since they have to use computers to look inside the rough and see what makes the most money? Could you log all the rough diamonds you cut and make better cuts out of it? If that were a high value industry segment or customer segment for us, yes. We'll let De Beers figure the rest of it out from there. The next question is, number 4, how many tokens is the team comfortable selling for? How many tokens is the team comfortable selling for funding their activities? Is there a limit number they want to hold before buybacks, or can it possibly go to 0? Will we have more transparency if there's any selling by the team, like a vested schedule? Thanks. Okay, I'm going to translate this into, will the team be adding sell pressure? No, we won't. That's not what we're doing. We are involved with the opposite of that. We understand that the valuation of this entire operation is one of the reasons why we're here. And that would, of course, mean nothing going to 0. We're not in it for zeros of anything. And we accept risk, if possible. And we are also in it to buy back as many tokens as possible. So if I were to directly answer that question, how many tokens is the team comfortable selling? We're not comfortable selling any tokens. We're not comfortable letting go of any equity at any time. We'd like to preserve as much as possible. But it is necessary that we raise capital from the capital marketplace. And that, of course, means using that capital to increase the value of this entire operation of this company. And that's our job. That's our job as team members and as core founding team members. And that's our responsibility to all stakeholders, is to use capital to grow this company, build it, achieve revenue and profitability. So we'll be raising capital in as small tranches as we can. We're not interested in raising large tranches, with the exception of one formal round that will get us to significant revenue. The next question is number 5. How far are we away from machines exchanging data sets with each other? Well, this is a very good question. We're probably about 1 to 2 years. A lot of that just depends on available resources, engineering resources. And of course, engineering resources requires time and capital, and that's what we're on track to achieve. So I would say about between 1 and 2 years. And most of these machines that we'll be dealing with are going to be machines related to AI and machine learning pipelines. These will be machines that are consuming data sets, machines that are trying to limit their loss or increase their P&L or reduce risk in some way. So getting machines to talk to one another is also what Microsoft Azure Space / SpaceX is engaged in terms of collecting data related to all devices, all machines in space. So we are right there on track to do that, and well equipped to do so, meaning that we understand what it takes for machines to increase their signal to noise ratio, alpha or edge, or precision and accuracy related to consuming data sets and features within data sets. These would be individual columns. So exchanging those features is how we foresee machines getting smarter by using one another, data from one another, and discarding data, using it as kind of what's called a data exhaust that another machine might find useful. So we'll get to that point. We're not quite there yet, but it will take about 1 to 2 years. The next question is, can you share how many VXV your company has acquired so far? We can only say nowhere near enough. The next question, 7, I'm assuming your goal is to acquire as much VXV to be able to sell it to a big financial player. How would it affect VXV holders if this happens? So, first off, we're not looking to sell to a big financial player, mainly because we understand the value of what we have here. We also understand that we will be engaged in M&A talks with certain suitors that have already expressed interest, but that certainly does not mean that we'd be interested in selling the company. What we would be interested in doing is making sure that we benefit all stakeholders, not only because we have a responsibility to, but because we understand the value of our reputation and our track record. And in fact, our track record and our reputation is the ultimate form of currency that we hold. So we expect everyone to follow us into the next deal if we ever did sell. And there's no way that anybody would if we, of course, ruin their opportunity for they as a VXV holder not to cash out, basically. So you'll also notice, though, that one of the best guides is to look at how other outcomes happen with other M&A events, and how holders or stakeholders of any M&A event benefit after the fact. And of course, that would be a do your own research activity. The next question is, can you explain how the process of finding a new data set works? Also, is the owner also able to sell this data set on the ocean marketplace? Okay, so the first part to this question is, can you explain the process of finding a new data set? So the process is really up to your own creativity. What you really want to do is understand your knowledge domain. What are you familiar with? What category of data are you most familiar with? What are you most interested in? Is it something related to the forest? Is it something related to the stars? Is it something related to cars? Is it something related to people? Whatever it is, you might want to think about how you correlate one thing with another within that knowledge domain. So if you're interested in cryptos, this means you might want to understand how crypto might correlate to a global event. In that case, you might want to understand what data sources you might want to bring in. Do you want to bring in news? First, what kind of cryptos do you want to correlate to global events? All of them? Or do you want to choose a sector? If it's a sector related to ESG, then you might want to bring in data sources related to ESG. And you might want to correlate your cryptos that are related to ESG to features or categories or topics within ESG. And every time one of those topics comes up in the news, then you have a basket of cryptos related to that topic within ESG or in the context of ESG. And there you've just designed a data set, which we would then create and generate with those data sources and those rows and columns. So that's how that's done. And if you design a high-value data set, yes, you get to take in a share of the profits of that data set. You can lease it. You can provide it to any other group as a data broker to the ocean marketplace if you wanted to. The next question, question 9, can you imagine VXV being leveraged for creating automated texts for news outlets or books for scientific researchers by using your technology? That would be a form of natural language generation, and that's not the best use of our technology. The best use of our technology is natural language understanding. With natural language generation, you're not enabling number one, you're not enabling you're not enabling a way for scientists to easily make breakthroughs or discoveries. You're also limiting the revenue potential or the funding potential of whatever effort you're involved with. And if you're just generating text, usually, if you're understanding the text and generating it at the same time, then you're able to answer questions. That's valuable. You can produce great consumer products around that, which is what Google's doing today. We're in the business of creating data sets using language models, and those data sets are used to make predictions or generate new hypotheses or make discoveries by creating relationships between things, known and hidden relationships. So there would be a difference. Would we ever go down the path of natural language generation? Maybe at some point we might combine it with our approaches in natural language understanding. Question 10, what's your opinion about Refinitiv? And could you see a collaboration with them in the future? Yes, they are on our target list. Next question, how are the talks with other companies besides hedge funds? I didn't hear anything about CERN or Microsoft lately. So everything's moving along with every other fund that we've talked to. We've gotten positive feedback. We haven't heard back from any of them yet. We're expanding the network with new proprietary trading desks, and we will let everyone know if we do hear back from anyone by next week. And when you look at CERN and Microsoft, they are also in process. Microsoft relates to a much larger strategy, and CERN and Microsoft are actually related when you look at radiation. And when you look at particle acceleration, what heavy ion particles can do, and the energies that are involved with them. Microsoft and Azure Space/SpaceX are involved with collecting all data related to space. And that's a gargantuan process. What that requires us to do is generate millions of data sets. And that's not a problem for us. We're going to start with just a few hundred. They'll be stored within the Azure Space environment. The data sets will be related to space biosciences and precision medicine. We have data sets we've generated already related to those, and as many already know, we've been operating in this field for quite some time. So we've got plenty of expertise and data sources essentially ready to go. So this is an ongoing process with Microsoft. It's going to take, it'll be indefinite essentially. So it'll bring us all the way to the point where we are using machines or getting machines to talk with one another and exchange data sets with one another so they can learn from one another. Our next question 12, any news updates related to the trial in progress on some dataset samples? Do you have other trials in? Okay, I just answered that. And the next one, I have a question related to the strategies regarding revenue and the fresh new hiring. Do they imply in a future change of the initial model? Well, we are constantly adapting to new market conditions. That's just a given. And our adaptations mean that, our modifications simply mean that we bolt on things that reduce friction and quicken the pace. That's it. And that's what we're doing now. We're extending our network of potential customers, potential leads, and we've made it a requirement that if any customer would like to go on trial with our data sets to acquire alpha from them, they would need to acquire VXV. And that has not changed in our discussions. And it doesn't look like it will change. And what that means is that eventually we are going to have customers start taking positions in VXV to acquire data sets, high-value data sets that either we design or they design, that use both public information, public data sources, and their own proprietary data sources. The next question, is there and will there be a fixed amount of VXV for vector space services or a discounted price compared to USD, BTC, or ETH payments? Our amounts will vary based on a case-by-case basis with each customer. And question 15, the final question, I just read in the community FAQ that it is possible to lease data sets. Would that mean it is possible for me to engineer features and monetize the data set that I've created? Absolutely, yes. That is precisely where we are going with things here, is in the design of a data set to actually enable the data engineer or the data scientist or even the visualization engineer to think of features to add. These features would be column labels. And we'd create new correlations and bring in new data sources based on that, and you'd have a custom data set there that does something that you want, that finds a pattern or a prediction that you're looking for. Next, we'll move on to strategy and our rollouts. We just want to notify everyone that our rollouts will be affected by market conditions. It's no shocker and certainly no surprise that the markets took a retrace. The crypto markets took a retrace. And the ripple effects have slowed things down for a few as we're waiting for things to recover. But our strategy has not changed as VectorspaceAI. Number one, it's to expand our customer network. And number two, each customer interested in extracting alpha will be taking a position in VXV and will be talking to the world about vector space. And three, we will be achieving consequential revenue, leading to profit. That concludes our call for this week. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to join us online. Thanks.